Hello everyone, I hope all of you are doing well. In this short video, I want to talk about my thoughts on church tech. And I hope, like myself, you would find this topic fun to watch and enjoy. Now what I've done is I've listed a few examples of church tech, and I want to go through each of them. Here we go. I'm going to start with the first example, and that example is church microphones. What are my thoughts on church microphones? I'm okay with mics as long as they work, whether if they're wired or wireless, and you have someone or a group of people who know how to organize them and know how they operate. When I was growing up in church, it was mainly the wired mics. They were okay, but when it comes to health and safety, you have to be aware of the wires. Just thinking about the wired mics, like how you position them and make sure you have enough wire even if you move about. I remember when you have to move the wire around the stand, make sure it's in place. But moving on to wireless mics, they made a difference. No wires on the ground. And for anyone who's preaching, they could walk around on the washroom or further into the benches or chairs. And wireless mics are good for conferences and workshops and other events where you have crowds and they have meetings and questions and answers. You have a woven mic to pass to them. Some churches today still have wired mics, and my main question is, how did they still cope with wired mics? Of course, they need to be careful of where the wires are placed. You have to have good cable control on the stage. But when it comes to mics, you have some people who don't know how to use them. You have some people who use mics and they're far from their mouths. They hold it way down here, or they just hold it in their hand and talk. And you can't really hear them. And you hear the crowd saying, "Mic! Use the mic!" But of course, there was a time when there were no mics in church. And yeah, it was before my time, but I do get some kind of understanding of how some people are used to not using mics. And one of the things that came to my mind is when there were no mics, especially when it came to testimonies, you have to really listen out for the person who's speaking. Now, especially in big sanctuaries, I wonder how people coped when someone is given their testimony and they're far from where you are. You have to really listen in and do your best to take in what they're saying. Yeah, so microphones have improved the sound and really project the sound of people and the sound of instruments. Moving on to Talkback mics. Now, I never knew what these were until last year or earlier this year. And I noticed that in many churches now, many church musicians have their own mics. Now at first, I thought that they had these mics to join in with the worship. But then I began to understand why musicians had their own mics. These mics and headphones help to improve the communication between each band member. So instead of a musician trying to signal to get the attention of other bandmates, they can simply talk into their mics and everyone else could hear. And I'm sure they could use these same mics and earphones to communicate with someone who's in the PA booth. Like say if they wanted more sound on the instruments, or if it's too loud, or if there's anything wrong. All they can do is just talk into their mic. So yeah, even as a musician myself, I've never used Talkback mics, but I can see the advantages of using them, especially where there are many parts to a church song and you want to know where you are in the song. All you have to do is just communicate through your mic and tell your fellow musicians where to go next. And especially for keyboardists, bassists and guitarists, when it comes to chords and numbers, all you have to do is just talk into the mic and they will know where to go next and what chords to play. Backing and click tracks. Now here's an interesting one. What are my thoughts on backing and click tracks? I like hearing it. Now for those of you who don't know what backing or click tracks are, before the worship team sings or before the full band plays, you may hear a track being played, like a few clicks, or you can just hear like some percussions in the background. They really enhance the music and the worship. But basically my thoughts, yeah, as I said, I like them. I mean, before, the only time where I heard click tracks and backing tracks were in concerts and conventions. But these days I hear it more in churches. The only thing is to make sure you're in time with the click tracks. Whether if you're leading worship or if you're a musician. Because many times I've heard where a musician has been out of time, or the worshipper on the platform being out of time with the click track, and it just messes up everything. So as long as you know how to use it and you're comfortable with using it, then that's fine. It takes practice, and of course you have to be patient with getting used to it. My own personal experience of using click tracks, the first time was not really good. I had to rely on the house speakers in the sanctuary because there was no speakers near the drums. And I didn't have the proper headset. I had earbuds. And what I like to use is the proper headphones where I can really hear the track playing. But over time I got used to it. And yeah, like I said, it takes patience to get used to using them. So yeah, overall, it's a thumbs up for backing and click tracks. Looping systems. Now here's an interesting one. What are my thoughts on looping systems? I'm all for it. anyone who has hearing aids, they can wirelessly tune into the looping system and hear what's going on in the services. And I guess the good thing to know about this is that, say if there were occasions where there were no people doing sign language, then of course it would be beneficial to use a looping system. And yeah, I believe that no one should be left out. Everyone should be involved and included in what's going on in services. So I'm all for looping systems. Multimedia screens is a big one. What are my thoughts on using multimedia screens? I'm all for it, unless if there were any technical faults. Apart from that, then I'm okay with multimedia screens. Now, I can cast my mind back to life before using this technology, remembering the old overhead projectors. Now this brings back memories. I remember, I think they're called acetate, that thin plastic sheet you put on the projector with the words, and how bright they used to be. Remember when we used to bring Bibles to church and chorus books? And now these days you see a few people bringing Bibles and chorus books to church. So yeah, we have come a long way. And of course there were times when you used these screens to project what's happening on the stage. Beforehand this was a mega church thing, but now almost every church has these facilities. Now to go a step further, there are quite a lot of churches that have LED walls where they show different colours to set the mood of the whole atmosphere. When it comes to worship and you have upbeat songs, you may have bright colours, or when you're singing a slow song, it's more a mixture of dark colours as well. LED walls, my thoughts, it's not really, is it really necessary? I don't think so. The most important thing is that you're attentive to what's going on stage. That's my thoughts. And of course, some churches have stage lights. Okay. I wouldn't go that far to use them every Sunday. But yeah, I'm more focused on what happens on the stage in the worship and during the sermons. I don't always need the flashy lights. Who has the best technology? Moving on to Livestream. Now here's a very interesting one. What are my thoughts on Livestream services? While I am very positive about Livestream services, and I'm all for it, thumbs up, I do understand why there are churches that don't use Livestream in their services. I understand where, for example, you want your church to be active, you want your people to be engaged, you want them to be in the church building, you don't want to lose your congregants. I do understand that. Meanwhile, on the pro side, you can reach people from around the world as long as they have good internet connection. If there are people who don't have any churches within their localities at home, And of course, Livestream would be beneficial. And yes, they were very helpful during the pandemic. And even before the pandemic, quite a lot of churches were using Livestream. And yeah, another pro point about Livestream is, say if there are people who work on Sundays as well as other days, they could tune in from where they are, or if they can't, when they go back home later, they can watch the replays. And of course, if a pastor is away, they can tune into what's going on. They can keep a close eye on what's going on, see if the people are behaving. But overall, I'm okay with Livestream, as long as they are working. Because of course, many occasions where the sound is low or off, you can't hear anything, you may have problems with visuals, but apart from that, I'm all for Livestream services. And of course, remember what life was like before Livestream. Tape recorders, or you use your phone to record the service, or any other recording devices. And now, Livestream services. Automated announcements. Here's a big one. Wow. This is very professional, isn't it? Wow. From my point of view, when I think about this, I usually refer to mega churches. They would use these announcements. But these days, it's growing. More churches are using this type of technology. And yeah, like I said, very professional. And of course, we all know, like before that, you would have a person presenting the announcements. Am I all for automated announcements? I don't really mind. If there's a person who does the announcements, fine. If it's on the screen, that's also fine. I don't mind. But yeah, I can see the change in this. As long as it works, I'm fine. Very, very interesting. An automated announcer listing all the events happening in the local church, or even on the district or national level or international. Yeah, it's very helpful. Card machines. Wow. I never thought that churches would have card machines for offerings and tithes. My thoughts. I'm still shocked. I am still shocked about the use of card machines in churches. Because I question, when was the last time I held cash in my hands? I can't remember. It's been so long ago. This is still something to get used to. This is still something to get used to. This is still something to get used to. And I'm like, wow. Who would have thought? I mean, ATMs on the high street Of course, yeah. Of course, yeah. But in church, wow. I mean, yes, we still have like buckets where people can use them for cash. But still, I'm still shocked. And of course, for me, I use mobile banking when it comes to like giving offering. All you need is the source code and the account number of the church. And there you go. All you need to do is like put your reference to indicate where your money is going to. Like if it's your offering, you put general offering. If it's a charity, you put the charity. If you want it to go to a department, like the men, women or youth, or anything else, Sunday school, just highlight it in the reference. Yeah, mobile banking in church. I'm all for that. Because you know that the money is safe and it won't be mishandled. Some churches have a contactless collection plate. Again, I am shocked. I'm surprised. Who would have thought? Wow, technology, man. All you do is just like tap your phone on the collection plate and the money just transfers electronically. Wow. Technology. Card machines and contactless collection plates and buckets. My goodness. And of course, the use of QR codes, especially when it comes to offering. Some churches have the QR codes on the back of their benches or chairs, and you just use the camera function to access the website. Wow. I'm still shocked. Yeah, I'm all for that. Wow. Church websites. What are my thoughts on church websites? Yes, they have been around for a long while, but my thoughts are, as long as they're updated, I am okay with church websites. Because there are churches that have old information. They have the previous pastor still on their website, and they don't really update the service times or any other important information. So my thoughts on church websites is I'm okay with them as long as they're updated. Church apps. I know not every church has their own app, but very useful. There could be occasions where the layout on the app is much more better than the website layout. Very useful. And of course, with websites they may crash, or they may have other technical problems. But with apps, they could be used as an alternative. And of course you can put whatever you want on there, your latest services, your latest resources, like Bible studies and many other things. And yeah, like the websites, you can update on church events and many other things. So I'm okay with church apps. as long as they work, of course. Now, I've put the use of YouTube in my list because these days churches use YouTube in different ways. Yes, I've talked about Livestream, but another use of YouTube, especially for like worship team rehearsals, you can send links and you can go over the songs. And I remember what life was like beforehand. CDs. Remembering the occasions where you would burn a lot of CDs to send out copies to each member of the worship team. And now you can just send YouTube links. And of course, before CDs we had audio cassette tapes. But to go from cassette tapes to CDs to YouTube links, very different. You can see the journey. Very interesting. And so in closing, I hope you enjoyed this video. I mean, look at how technology has influenced society. And in this case, look at how it's influenced the church. And I guess my final words would be, it doesn't matter about what church has the best technology. It's not a competition. What's more important is spreading the word, nurturing church members, reaching out to new converts. That's more important. Yes, technology is good. And even in my list of examples, we can see how necessary they are. But still, the most important thing is the Word of God and nurturing spiritual growth. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and God bless you.